Favorite Podcast. I am your host, Tru Sav, in the building. Well, we're not in the building today. We're outside on the streets of Oakland, California. Ooh, boy. We're going to have a slight programming change today. I was supposed to teach you how to win an argument online today, but I don't think that's going to happen. I might have 5 minutes for you at the end, but it's going down in Oakland, California, boy. It's so much to talk about in so little time. Let's start from the beginning. Last week, things were heating up here in Oakland. The quarantine 2020 was, I think we were in phase 3. Opening up regular shops and stuff, letting people go out, get their hair, their hair, toes, nails did. I forgot the song. And people showed up and showed out. Definitely not the outcome I was expecting. I know out here in Oakland, we were still on timeout though. A lot of other states opened up. They didn't open up like the theaters or large venues of gatherings, but they opened up some quote unquote non-essential businesses, stuff like that. I know in Sacramento, the rules were a little different. So they could go out. So they could go out and have like little gatherings. And sure enough, they tore the river up. Because again, people haven't been out for 2 months. So there's no traffic, there's no litter, there's no congestion, none of that. So to go from, and then of course it happened to be the first week of June. So people had to go out. And they destroyed the rivers. Full of garbage, they were out there fighting, acting the fool. As a matter of fact, and I don't know if the stories, I haven't done my research. So this is, I'm being a chatty patty right now. There was a young boy that died in Sacramento on the river, and the story that they're saying is his guardians were out there at the river having a good time and whatnot, and they ended up getting into a fight with another group of people. During the melee, the boy went into the water and he drowned, which is horrible. On top of this, after the incident happened, allegedly, the family tried to blame the police for not protecting the boy or something, which is crazy in itself. Like, if you were out and about and you were fighting and your child gets hurt, your best bet is to just shut the fuck up and chill out. Like, that just doesn't. That's not the time to be talking about the police don't care and whatnot. So that was horrible. In a little bit of lighter news, so this week was supposed to be rather dull and boring. Again, I just got my promotion to a little store manager. So whoop, out here banging. So this week again was kind of awkward because I already had a topic for y'all, but things were changing rather quickly, and this week I wasn't even in the store this week. I was scheduled to be at another store in Berkeley, and I was supposed to train for a couple days, come back with some ideas and such about making my store more user friendly, how to come up with a tailored experience for our guests so that they feel like they have an ownership part of our store and all that other management stuff that I wasn't really tripping on. I ended up going to the store in Berkeley, start my little training and whatnot, and it was eye-opening. It's always nice to go to another store or to someone else's house, I guess, and see how they run their store. Because again, every store is different. So there's going to be things that work in certain stores, certain things that don't work in other stores. And the one thing I noticed immediately is that they are way more organized than us. Just from what products look like to how they're displayed to the actual displays and signs themselves. And as I was talking to the gentleman who was training me, it became obviously apparent that we needed some help, that we were just lacking. Not because of myself, because we know I'm the shit and you know it. We needed help just in coming up with systems and routines. Because again, we've only been open for 8 months. And my department hasn't had a manager in 4 months, something like that. So it's been the wild, wild west. But I really liked going to the store and working with other dude. I think he's had something like 30 or 40 years of grocery experience. So he's setting up displays. He's showing me little tips and tricks. And I'm just like, man, this guy is. It was kind of, well, I don't want to say it was boring. But the first 4 hours, we were just nonstop. Just, we could do this, you could do this. This is how you operate this system. This is how you pull up this. This is how you look at these numbers. I'm like, okay. He's like, well, let's go to your store so we can kind of see what's going on. Like, what kind of systems you have going, how things are set. I'm like, all right, bet. I was pretty confident in what was going on. Like, I've only been in charge for like a week or two, but I felt like the direction that I have them heading was good enough, and how I have it set up now would work. So we drive to the spot, have a little small conversation as we're going. We pull up to the store. We walk inside, and he's just like, "Why does your cooler look like this?" Because that's the way the vendor made it. No. Like, you got to remember, like, you're the vendor's boss. Like, you got to tell them, like, this is how it's gonna go, and this is this and this. So I was like, okay, like, I hear you talking, but okay. So then we get to the actual sales floor, and once we get to the sales floor, he picks my department apart. Oh, why isn't this sign like this? Why is there 3 cans instead of 2? Why is this shelf too high? Why is this shelf too low? Why does the end look like this? Why is your pricing thing uneven? Why isn't this lined up? I was just like, oh my God. The coup de grace moment though was when we walked into the chiller in the back, where there's a freezer and then a walk-in refrigerator, and we walk in and he loses his mind. Oh my gosh. So, moment of honesty. The cooler's thrashed. Not even gonna lie. Like, it's a work in progress. And when he walked in and saw it, he legitimately looked at me and was like, "Hey, what the fuck you got going on in here? Like, what is this?" And I was like, "Hey, man, I've been on the job for like 2 weeks. Like, I'm trying to get a grasp on everything." And he was just like, this is fucking unacceptable. Now, mind you, he hadn't cussed the whole day. So when he started swearing, I was like, oh yeah, I messed up big time. Like, I was, okay, I'm tripping. I need to get on this immediately. And it's not like, to be clear, it's not like he was swearing at me or he was hitting me with any kind of expletives or slurs or anything like that. It was just, being the professional that he is, he understood what this cooler needed to look like for us to be successful, and the fact that it looked like garbage was upsetting, and I got that. I understood why he was upset. I didn't take it personal. What was funny that came from this was one of the employees in my department happened to walk into the chiller, and he's the most senior employee that I have. So the guy's like, "Oh, well, who is this?" I explained to him, he's my most senior guy. This is who I go to for stuff, da-da-da-da-da. He rapid fired asked him 3 different questions. I mean, simple questions. And he just had no answers for him. then to add insult to injury, when he finally asked him, like, why does the chiller look like this? Like, how did it get like this? Why don't you guys have any systems, like checks and balances to fix this? And he looked this man dead in the eye and told him, we have never had any systems to deal with this. It's never been organized. We've never had dividers, sections, nothing like that. We've always just thrown stuff in here. And I kind of paused for a minute because I knew this was a bold-faced lie. I didn't work in this department the whole time that I've worked at the grocery store owned by Amazon, but I do know that they had a well thought out plan for how stuff was stored. But since the manager of the department had quit and had been gone for 4 months, they were just kind of doing their own thing. So instead of just owning up to the fact that he was wrong, he lied about it. Now, mind you, I'm his boss. I can fire you if I want to. And in the moment, I was just thinking, like, not only is this so disrespectful to dude who's asking the question that you're just going to blatantly lie, but then you're going to lie on me and try to say that I didn't come up with some kind of system to try to fix this when we literally, so dude leaves. He leaves the chiller. And when he leaves, he takes like 2 or 3 things with him, like 2 or 3 things of milk. So as he walks out of the chiller, the guy who was training me loses it again. And he was like, if this was my store, I would have fired him on the spot. And I was like, what do you mean? He's like, this chiller is a fucking wreck. And you're telling me that he just walked out with 3 things of milk? Like, that's going to solve this? Like, there's no sense of urgency in what he's saying. And I thought about it. I reached in my pocket. I pulled out the paper because I had literally hand drawn on a piece of paper the different sections for the coolers. And the piece of paper was from, like, I don't know, 2 days ago. And it had the date printed on it, which was the dead giveaway. So I showed dude, and he was like, yeah, you already know what you got to do. Like, you need people in here that are going to help. And he's not going to help. So it was, I was embarrassed for dude. Like, here it is. Here's someone from another store who's never met you, has no idea of anything that you're doing, your work ethic, what type of person you are, and within 5 minutes he's saying, I should fire you. Which is sad, because dude's cool. Like, he's a nice person, I guess, when he's not lying or whatever. But I digress. That seems to be a issue that I will deal with when we come back. After we walked the floor, we kind of had some different ideas of how we can improve sales and different things to do with vendors. Again, in all honesty, guys, I was embarrassed as a motherfucker. Like, I thought I had a grasp on things, and I thought that I kind of had a handle on it, and if I did this, that, and the third, then I could kind of turn things around. And after talking to him, I realized that, number one, I did not have a grasp on things, and number two, I did not have a system in place to change things. So this trip was rather embarrassing. Like, I haven't been embarrassed about something in a long time, but this was probably one of the more embarrassing moments of my life. And I had shared that with dude. I had told him, I was like, yeah, I apologize for what this looks like and you walking into here. And he was saying, you don't have anything to apologize for. Like, you've been here a week. Like, there's no way that you could have changed all these things in a week. But the fact that you're here asking for help shows that you actually want to change things, and that's all that really matters. And I thought, I was like, well, damn. And that's not only true for this particular situation, but other times in life when it's like, you've messed up. I mean, I'm not going to fret. I'm on my 5th second chance now with a lot of people. I think that people are more willing to accept your shortcomings or your bad behavior if they see that you're actually trying to make a change. So if you I don't know, you tell a little white lie every now and then, or you have one too many double Hennessy's or something like that, or whatever your issue may be. I feel like people are more willing to deal with you if you're actually, number one, if you're accountable for your mistakes. If you say, you know what, look, I was wrong. I'm trying to fix this. How can I become better? People are more willing to accept that. Instead of you just lie about it and not acknowledge the behavior, then they're just going to be like, well, fuck you. Not only are you dishonest about your behavior, but you can't even acknowledge that you have this issue. So I felt bad for about 5 minutes, but after talking to the dude, I felt like I was in a better place, and I was glad that I had reached out to him and asked for help, because that's, again, with accepting compliments, that's another issue that I really have, is asking people for help. I don't know why. I just prefer to do things by myself. I think it's, in asking for help, sometimes we feel like you're weak, or maybe you're not as well versed as you thought you were. And I mean, I know I'm not. I'm the dumbest person I know. I'm not even gonna lie to y'all. And sometimes you don't want to ask for help, because who wants to be, it's an awkward position to be put in when you're asking for help, because now you're at the mercy of another person, and there's no telling what they might say. It might be, oh yeah, sure, I'll help you, or it might be, oh, you big dummy, how do you not know? So I get it. It was I'm glad I did it though. I'm really glad, because he put me up on so much game. It's ridiculous. We're gonna be on and popping once we get our little situation together. So that was the first day. This is day 1. Day 2, pull back up. There's nothing to really do now, because he showed me everything. I ordered a couple things for the store. I found out who my regional and district managers were. Just a little basic stuff, nothing too serious. Towards the end of the day, I spoke with his store, like his store lead or whatever they call him, and she broke down a lot of the financial stuff, which was just relatively easy to understand. This sold the most, that sold the most. There you go. It was and again, to be honest, I was a bit nervous coming into it, but when you have people who are actually willing to help and willing to give advice or make sure that you got your stuff together, like, you need to utilize people like that. And I think sometimes we're a bit apprehensive to ask for help. But I mean, if you don't ask for help, how will you ever get your situation solved? My esposa is the number one culprit of this. We can be in a store neither one of us have ever been to, and she will wander the entire store instead of asking someone who works there for help. My thing is, I immediately, as soon as I walk in, hey, can you help me find this? I have no idea where it's at. I don't want to walk around. And I'll tell you, but for her, she's different. She wants to do it herself. She doesn't want to ask. I'm like, babe, I don't have 30 minutes to walk around the store. I would rather just ask someone, hey, I don't know. There's no shame in saying you don't know. I tell people all the time, that's the difference between being ignorant and stupid. The difference between ignorant and stupid is asking. If you don't know that 2 plus 2 is 4, you're ignorant. You just don't know. There's nothing wrong with not knowing. But if I tell you 2 plus 2 was 4, and then you go on to say it's 5, now you're stupid. Because I've told you, I've shown you how to do it, and now you continue to do the wrong thing. You're just stupid. So again, there's nothing wrong with being ignorant to something. We were all ignorant to something. I didn't know how good strawberry ice cream was until somebody put me up on game. I didn't know how to drive a car. I was ignorant to the fact. Like, you can't get caught up in being embarrassed because you didn't know something. There's no shame in asking. Just got to put your pride to the side. The second day, back to our second day. I've done pretty much everything I can do. Did the numbers, did some other stuff. So I come back to my store, and it's a wreck. There's stuff all over the place. People are at work that aren't supposed to be there, and some people are late, and I'm just like, okay, I see what I have to do here. We're just gonna have to go scorched earth. And this was me talking to another manager, and she's like, "What's scorched earth?" I was like, "Well, scorched earth is when you just burn the entire forest down. Like, yeah, there's some trees that were making some headway, and there's some things that were working, but all in all, like our entire store is sinking. So what we need to do is just go scorched earth. Anyone who's worth saving, save them. So the employees that are actually good, that come on time, that show up and greet customers right and do all that, you can keep them. So we're going to take their seeds out the ground and we're going to plant them again. But the rest of them, burn them. Just start over. Like they're already so bad that there's no coming back from how bad they are. Like that's the issue. As a matter of fact, I'm glad that I said that. So I think last time I told you guys about the employer that I was going to have to fire. And again, I'm not really one who's too ashamed of firing people. And there was a certain point in my life where I might have kind of been like, I don't feel comfortable doing this. But at this point, I got bills to pay. And if you're not with us, you're against us. In every sense of the phrase. It's kind of our situation at the grocery store owned by Amazon is kind of difficult because I started as a team member and then now became management. This isn't awkward for me, of course. I don't really mind. I feel like the other managers, it's a little awkward for them because not very often do you have a situation where an employee is promoted and then stays at that same store for the exact reason that I'm detailing. Like, it's hard to separate the team member from the person. So, like, they only know me as team member Tru Sav. So now I kind of have to establish myself as manager Tru Sav. And, like, I tell them, I was like, me as a team member and me as a manager are two different things. When I applied, you asked me to be the manager, and I told you no. I just want to come get my paycheck. I just want to make sandwiches and whatever and chill out. I don't want the responsibility of all that. Well, unfortunately, because no one else picked up the slack, and because we went 4 months without a manager, I said, okay, look, I will be more than happy to fill the void, and we'll just rock from there. And I'll show you what it's really about. So they're like, okay. And I've been making real managerial decisions. Like I said, they want me to hire and fire people. So just in my process of hiring people, evaluating talent, explaining to the other managers what employees should expect from us, specifically, it's hard to hold someone accountable for being late to work when you're late to work. It's hard to be accountable for telling people not to be on their cell phones when you're on your cell phone. Things like that. This coupled with the fact that I'm very, very blunt with the managers and how I feel about specific team members. It's never anything personal. I don't hold personal grudges. If you're a good employee and a terrible person, you just kind of have to deal with that. Like, this isn't a personality contest. It's not a miscongeniality, anything like that. If you come to work and you work, that's fine with me. I mean, we don't have to have Thanksgiving dinner or anything like that for me to like you. And I think sometimes managers have a hard time separating that because they won't like someone for something personal, and it will affect how they treat them as an employee, and that should never be the case. Because I shouldn't have to like you as a person for you to work here. Like, that's not the way the game goes, because people are always going to disagree on certain things and not see eye to eye. So that's kind of a weird barometer on whether or not an employee is good or not. But specifically, this came up because when I was talking about scorched earth, the young lady that I was supposed to fire, like, I had gave her chance after chance after chance to try to get it together. Now, mind you, I've only been a manager for a week. So I've been kind of hinting at, hey, you've been here, you're one of the longest tenured employees that we got. Like, you're somebody that we would like to see maybe move up or even be an example to other employees of what you should be doing. And she was like, yeah, yeah. They were like, yeah, yeah, I can do that, and I don't have a problem with that, and I'll be more than happy, and da 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 da. And what happens? They call out 3 times in a row on Memorial Day weekend. So now I have to fire them. Now, which is, again, I don't have a problem with. Like, we could be friends after this, even after I fire you. I'm not firing you because I dislike you. I'm firing you because you're a bad employee. Like, we didn't beg you to come here. You asked us to come here. You said you could do what we tasked you to do. You said you would be here on time. You said you would be here these days, and now you're not. Like, it's nothing personal. You just took yourself out the game. So that happened before my little training, but I just thought about it now when we were talking about scorched earth, because sometimes you lose some good people along the way. Like, there's some employees that, if they wanted to, they probably could have tried, and they probably could have turned it around, and we wouldn't even be having this conversation with them. But life is all about choices, and they made a choice, and unfortunately they made the wrong choice. But hey, but back to this scorched earth. So I think in the movies they call that foreshadowing. Something like, is that what it's called? Something like that. But remember the scorched earth. And basically I told the manager, I came to the conclusion, like, we just need to fire everybody. We just need to fire everyone, start over, just start from the ground up. Because at this point, we've created a culture, and that culture is not a winning culture. People show up late, they have bad attitudes, their customer service is terrible, they don't know what they're talking about. There's no shame in blowing it up. It's what happens whenever a new coach comes in to a sporting team. It happens whenever a new boss comes in to certain corporations. Anyone connected with the old regime, you got to go. And again, it's nothing personal. It's just when a new leader comes in, there can't be any opposition to what's being said. And people who were in a position of power before the new leader came, there's still people who will be loyal to that person, which is why you have to get them out of there immediately. You can't have any dissension. You can't have different opinions. There can only be one voice if it's going to work, if you're going to be in the position of power. So we talked about scorched earth, and we talked about me enjoying getting trained by all these people. Now it's time for the fun stuff. Okay. Whoo-wee. It's Friday now. I've done my training. I got my little situation together. I got a plan. We know a plan. A plan is being 1 step ahead. A plan is being 3 steps ahead. Beating an enemy's move before it's even made. That's a plan. And boy, do I love when a plan comes together. I couldn't have planned what happened, though. Not even gonna fret. So Friday comes. So I'm juiced. I'm excited to be at work. I'm like, yo, I got these new skills. Whoop, whoop, whoop. I didn't talk to my man. I got a whole scenario. What I forgot was I had worked 5 days consecutively already. So I couldn't work a 6th because that would be overtime. So I'm just coming up with any excuse that I can to come into the store. Oh, I got to talk to you about ordering this, or I got to talk to you about ordering that, or I have a question about this or that. And finally my boss was just like, look, you got to go home. You can't be here. You can't work today. You already worked 5 days. Go home. So I'm like, well, what do I do? He's like, well, your next day isn't until Monday, so congratulations, you got a 3-day weekend. So I'm like, all right, for sure. Like, I'm chilling, whatever. So I go home, hang out with Mrs. Tru Sav. We're bullshitting the day away. As a matter of fact, yeah, did I watch that day? Nope, I didn't. We go to lunch, hang out a little bit. it gets to that time of the night where I've got to do my little mile. Again, shout out to all the true savages in the building. One way of holding each other accountable is to kind of make your intentions known and your progress known. So we all have this app. I can't think of the name of it. It escapes me. But we all have the app. And so every day you can log your workout and other people can see your workout. Great way of holding people accountable. So every day I got to do my mile because there's just no excuse not to get your exercise in. The wife and I take our fur children and we start walking. Usually I'll do like 2 miles. I mean, everyone else runs. I'm not running a mile. This body is built for comfort, not speed. So I'll slide through, do my little mile and a half, 2 miles or something. I'm walking with dogs, whatever. Kicking it with the missus. We head out. For some reason, I was like, let's walk towards downtown. Usually we walk towards the lake or towards West Oconda, but today I was like, you know what? Let's go downtown. I don't know why. We started heading down there, and it's about 8:30, 9 o'clock, so it's just getting dark. And there is a palatable tension in the air. No, not really. I didn't know. It was just dark, and there was a lot of people out because I didn't know that there was a protest downtown. So we're walking, hanging out, and we're seeing all these people with masks on. Like, not like I have this white mask on for my breathing stuff. It looks like a ski mask. Like I don't want you to know who I am kind of ski mask. And my wife's not paying attention. She's just walking. And I'm looking and I'm like, okay, usually when these protests happen, like, people have a certain kind of look. Like jeans, t-shirts, stuff like that. They have like their little signs. These people were dressed in all black. So hoodies, black pants, black shoes. And they weren't the like surgical breathing masks. They were like either the ski mask that went all the way over your head so only your eyes were showing, or the kind where it wrapped completely around the bottom of your face so your nose and mouth were covered. But still, I'm like, okay, whatever. It's the Bay Area. It's cold. Maybe they're just trying to keep warm. I don't know. No alarms have gone off at this point. We continue walking, and every now and then you'll kind of hear like an explosion. Not like a car explosion, but just like a boom, and then like maybe a pop, pop, pop. So I was like, okay, that's probably the police. Somebody's acting up. It's probably some rubber bullets or something. Or something like that. Still not really tripping. Because it's not by us. You can tell by the sound of it, it's not anywhere close to us. So still, not really an issue. Finally, we pass a group of, I don't know, young people in their early 20s. And the guy's like, hey, I wouldn't go that way because they were spraying pepper spray. So I'm like, oh, that's all I needed to hear. Thank you very much. We turn around and start walking back to the house. Again, I'm not really tripping. I'm thinking, okay, they're acting up a little bit. So I'm thinking, okay, they're acting up a little bit. Police are going to check them, and we'll be fine. We get maybe 2 blocks from the house. I turn around and look behind me, and there's got to be 300 people walking in the middle of the street behind us. It was like a police academy, where they come out of the alley and onto the street, and the riot's behind them. So I'm just like, oh, I'm out. I'm to the crib. Let's go. So I immediately started taking my old self to the house. But what does Mrs. Tru Sav want to do? She wants to stay outside and watch. I was like, well, sweetheart, you're on your own. So I took the dogs and I dipped. I get to the house. I'm in the house maybe 10 minutes. And my first thought is like, I'm gonna have to go get her because she's gonna be out there, and if something bad happens, like this is just gonna turn into a bad situation. So let me go get her. As I'm leaving to go get her, she calls and is like, "Hey, I'm on my way right now. They just broke into the store and they are tearing this motherfucker apart." So I'm like, "Well, bring your ass back up here. Like, what are you doing?" So she comes back, and we're in the apartment and we're watching the news, and they are tearing shit up in downtown Oconda. From it started on 11th Street, I guess, by by City Hall, and they just went on a rampage all the way down. And they tore this poor little Target up, boy. There's a brand new Target that they just built that's like a block from us. Whew. So I didn't know what was going on because I didn't go outside. She came in at about 9:30. She went to sleep at about 11. So me, being the person that has no sense, I go outside like, well, let's see what's going on. I mean, I'm up. I might as well check it out. I go downstairs and I walk the block to the Target, and I've never seen no shit like this before in my life. Like, I've been in riots. I've been where like people are fighting and chairs are getting thrown and the police are fighting with people. I've been in other marches that turned into fights and stuff like this, but this was like the real deal, like looting. Like, how can I describe this Target? So, facing the street, there has to be 20 windows that have got to be at least 15 feet high by 6 feet wide. So there's 20 of these, and they're all facing the street. And they're glass. It's not like they're tempered glass or they're like the safety glass. It's regular glass. So all of those have been broken out. Every single window is broken out. And people are just hopping through. They're hopping into the sales floor, snatching stuff, passing it to people. I saw people pull up like four deep in a truck or a car or whatever parked right in front, and they just started a line. They started just passing stuff to each other. Microwaves, toasters, air fryers, clothes, makeup, electronics, toys, drinks. They took everything. Some people had masks, some people didn't have masks. Some people were trying to set the store on fire. Some people were just hanging out. So I of course didn't go in because I wasn't trying to be one of the crew. I step back and I go across the street and I just watch. And there was no sign of the police coming. Like, every now and then an officer would pull up and be like, "Hey, get out of here." But I mean, there's 100 looters and one cop. I mean, what is he really gonna do? I'm gonna throw you on the back of this motorcycle and drag you to the jail? So, plus there was so much other stuff going on at the time, like there was no way to really stop them. Maybe 30 minutes goes by, 45 minutes goes by. As a matter of fact, I actually went live when this happened. Check me out on Facebook. Name on the profile is Ricky Freeman Shaw. I recorded for a couple minutes. The funniest thing that I saw that night, by far, hands down, funniest thing I've ever seen. People are breaking the glass, looting stuff. Just utter chaos is upon us. While this is happening, the Audi dealership had contracted a company to board up their windows. While all of this is happening, these two dudes are still boarding up the windows from Audi while all of this madness is happening. Didn't flinch. Didn't bat an eye, nothing. Just continued to board up the Audi dealership. I was like, you guys need a raise, bro. Like, they need to kick you down some more money. Because that was the funniest thing I've ever seen. They didn't just abandon ship, be like, it's too dangerous. They were soldiers and salved it out. So shout out to you guys. I wish I remembered the name of your company. I'd shout you out, but I can't. This went on till about 1:30 in the morning, and it started at 9. So they had a good run at it, from about 9 to 1. At about 1:30 is when you hear the police siren. I'm like, oh, okay, we already seen this. One of you guys is gonna show up, and then they're gonna disperse. Wrong. 30 of them showed up. It was I want to say Vacaville and I think Stockton or something, but they pulled up, boy, and they were playing no games. They pulled up at least 4 deep in every car, hopped out, riot gear, the whole 9. So they chased everyone out of there. They didn't really arrest anybody. They just kind of, hey, get out of here. So they pull up, bam. Everybody hops out. Now they're on foot. Close a couple of the intersections off, kind of control traffic. I mean, at this point, it was over with. So I just wrapped it up. Was like, I'm going to go into the crib. I'm not going to be an accident. I'm a block from the house, so I'm not really tripping. I shut it down. I go in the house. I get up at about 7:38 because we got to pee the dogs in the morning. I'm thinking, I'm sure the call's already been made. The store should be boarded up. It should be all good, right? Like nothing should have been happening. I get up at 8 o'clock in the morning to go walk the fur babies. I come down there and they are still torching the store. They are still grabbing anything they can get and running up out of there. And it's 8 o'clock in the morning. And I'm thinking, like, they didn't board the store up? Like, no one's here, like, watching? But I figure at that point, you're already going to make a claim on insurance for all the items that are in the store. So what's the point in really protecting a burnt out, dilapidated building? Like, there's no... Furthermore, these people had decided they were going to try to set the store on fire, which in turn caused one of the sprinklers to go off. So now there's water everywhere, and it's just flowing because it's not going to stop. The floor is completely soaked, and the way the store has levels. So there's a level beneath the first floor. So all of the water is now spilled down into there, which again is another situation that's going to have to be dealt with. It's horrible. The police finally show up at about 8:30. They kind of show up, clear everybody out, chase a couple people. And that's when the cleanup crew comes. They start boarding stuff up, la-di-da-di-da. But by then it was like, this is just a shell of what used to be on the Sahara. So I mean... Whew, it was rough. That was Friday night, going into Saturday. There was a scheduled protest for noon in San Francisco. The city of San Francisco still said, okay, you guys can come do a peaceful protest, whatever the case. Blah, 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 blah. Which I would have absolutely shut down. Like, there would have been no way that was going to happen after what happened the night before. But that's why I'm not in charge. Nightfall comes on Saturday night, and the same shit happens. This time in San Francisco, down on Market Street. So they hit Neiman Marcus, Gucci, Louis Vuitton, Prada, a couple of jewelry stores. They got into the mall. They were out there wilding in San Francisco because there's just more stuff to steal. But in Oconda, we went to the neighboring city of Emeryville. Well, we didn't do anything. I wasn't there. They started apparently because Oakland was. I'd gone out. See, maybe it's me and going to walk the dogs. Every time I go outside to walk the dogs, something bad happens, or something just off the hook. The missus and I are walking the dog, trying to get my mile in, and all of a sudden, because we have a specific spot where we potty them at, you hear footsteps, like uniform footsteps. Yeah, I'm not tripping. I'm not even thinking about it. And then I see, like, 3 or 4 police officers full riot gear. I'm like, oh, okay, that's cute. Like, you're in riot gear. Then 6 turns to 12, turns to 20, turns to 40, turns to 100. So now I'm tripping because I'm like, oh shit, like there's 100 police officers out here in riot gear. Let me turn around and go to the house. But of course, curiosity got the better of me. So I'm like, well, let's follow them. Let's see where they're going. They started walking towards the freeway. And like they shut the entrance and the exits to the freeway down. So I'm like, okay, this is weird. Like I wonder what they're doing. So I, being nosy, I just kind of stand there. 10, 15 minutes goes by. Once this time goes by, all of a sudden, they start walking towards me. So now I'm really like, oh, I don't know what to do. There's 100 of you and just little old me. What do I do? So I try to play it cool. And all 100 of them end up walking by the same little patch of grass where I'm standing at. So I'm trying to play it cool, like I'm not shook right now, because I'm just like, oh man, like I can't. Number one, I can't outrun 5 of you, let alone 100 of you. I definitely can't fight my way out of 100 of y'all, so I'm just gonna have to be super cool right now and just pretend like it's all good. But they weren't fucking with me. I'm just some guy standing there on the phone. A couple of minutes goes by. I'm like, okay, I'm just gonna shut it down for safety purposes. I go to the house. And we're watching the news. Breaking news. They're looting Emeryville. Emeryville is the city right next to Oconda, like literally one street over. And they got busy. They did their thug thizzle in Emeryville, boy. There is a mall in Emeryville right by the freeway that has some high-end stores there. And again, the protesters showed up and showed out, boy. They hit the Target over there, the Best Buy, the Taco Bell, the Ulta. Ulta is a makeup store, I think. I don't think they hit Home Depot. Decathlon, which is like a sporting goods store. They hit all the clothing stores in the mall. A jewelry store. And something else. Oh, how could I forget? They hit the Honda dealership in Oakland on Friday night. They stole cars off of the sales floor. Like, drove the cars out of the sales floor. Like, out of the window, onto the street and took off with them. They tried to set the Mercedes dealership on fire. They set a couple of Mercedes on fire. What else did they do? They stole something. Oh, Lord have mercy. They went to the Dodge dealership in San Leandro and stole all the Hellcats off the lot. I know you're saying, Tru Sav, how did they do that? Well, apparently, what car dealerships do is when they're test driving cars, they leave all of the keys to the car in one place. So they leave them in some kind of cabinet, but it's out in the open. And someone knew because they took the keys and drove off with all of these cars that start. MSRP on a Hellcat is, I want to say, $95,000. So, I mean, hey, I'm not even mad at him. He's like, well, Tru Sav, they can't register the car, and they can't. Yeah, but you can sell it for parts. Probably make a good $30,000, $40,000. Like, come on, bro, that's for the win. Boy, it was live and direct in Oconda. I ain't even gonna lie. Boy, they were doing their thug thizzle. I mean, I'm too old to participate in something like that, but I mean, them youngsters showed up and showed out, boy. They were not playing no games with them. So this was, let's see, today is a Tuesday here in the Best Day Ever podcast. I know we're a little bit late. It's been wild this weekend, like I said. A lot of stuff has happened. Saturday, they hit Emeryville. Sunday night, which was 2 days ago, there was no real protest. But they did institute a curfew. And again, I hate to be right. I mean, it's cool to be right sometimes. So, like, people can ask you for your advice and stuff because they know that you've got a good sense of things. But this particular situation, I'm not too happy with being right about. When quarantine 2020 started, my wife asked me, what do you think they're doing and how long do you think this is going to last? And I told her I would be surprised if this ended before Christmas. And she was like, oh, you're tripping. That doesn't even make sense. Yada, 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 yada. And she was like, well, how's that going to work? I was like, well, it's obvious. First, they're going to start with the social distancing and the essential and non-essentials. That's what they're going to start with. Second, after a while, people are going to get tired of social distancing. They're going to get tired of being inside, not being able to go to work, especially when the summertime hits and the weather gets nicer. They're going to want to go out. So they're going to need something to happen so that they can institute martial law or a curfew at the very least. They can't call it martial law because that has a bad connotation to it. You can't say that. So what's going to end up happening is they're going to cause something that's going to make them issue a curfew or martial law. I find it very odd that the week of Memorial Day, they decided to be like, you know what, we're off a timeout. You guys can go outside. Seems kind of strange. But of course, ultimately, what I thought was going to happen did happen. They let people go outside. People acted a fool. And now they got what they want. Now they have the curfew. They implemented the curfew. They announced the curfew Monday morning. I think some of the outlying areas might have been before us. But I know at 6 o'clock, I got one of those emergency text messages. It said, burr, burr. This is a message from the Alameda County, whoever. There's a curfew being implemented from 8 o'clock until 5:30 in the morning. Anyone caught outside subject to arrest and a fine. So I was like, yeah, right. Like, hey, okay, curfew. Just like social distancing, just like all the rest of that. 8 o'clock rolls around. I still hadn't got my mile in. So I was like, let me get my mile in. Or it was 7. I only remember it was 7 because, again, I go outside, get my little mile, walk the dogs. I hit Broadway, another protest. This one was a little bit longer, though. There was a couple thousand people at this one. Maybe 2,000-3,000. Because Facebook Live, Ricky Freeman Shaw, Junior Thug Dizzle. I did a live video again, and it had to be at least, I stood there for at least 10-15 minutes while people walked by. So it wasn't a little baby protest. There was a lot of people out. So I was expecting a replay of Friday, Saturday. But these people were dressed like protesters. They weren't dressed like they really wanted a problem. But, so I don't get my mile in. I ended up just watching them march for a little bit, and then I came back inside. And I figured I'll have time. I was like, I'm walking my dog. What are you going to say? You're going to say I can't walk my dog because this little protest situation? Nah, that's not what's going to happen. I come back later. I come back outside maybe 8:45. So it's 45 minutes past curfew. I take the dog out, and people are already kind of giving me looks like, I don't know if you want to do that. And I'm like, first of all, I'm a true savage. I'll do whatever the fuck I want to, as long as the police aren't around. But I'll do whatever the fuck I want to. You ain't gonna tell me I'm not gonna go outside and walk my dog. I didn't really have that same energy when I said it, but it sounds good right now. I walked the dog to the little spot, and as I'm leaving, the boys show up in force. Same thing, pull up 20 deep, hop out, 4 deep in the whip, riot gear, all of that. I feel like the officers that were out, they were looking for people who looked like they had no business being out. So if you're dressed in all black, masked up, like, they were coming for you. Me walking the dog, it's still right around sunset. Because a couple of cars passed me full of police officers, and they just kind of looked and kept it moving. Because again, you can tell the difference between someone who's just walking the dog or doing whatever and someone who is out there looking to cause a little bit of trouble. I hurry up and take myself back home because I don't want no problems. I can't afford to go to jail right now. Unfortunately, I just bitched up and took my ass home. When I get back upstairs, my wife is watching through the window. Well, when I was downstairs, the police had caught maybe 10 or 12, they looked to be high school age kids, and a crowd was forming, and the crowd was yelling, "Let them go," and such and such and such and such. I took the opportunity to slide past the crowd and get back to the apartment and watch from the privacy of my house. I wasn't going to get caught on the street arguing with the police. That's not what was going to happen. Especially since I was in violation of the little rule. I was like, let me just go inside. I go inside. Wife's already in the window like, oh, look, they're going crazy. Da, 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 da. So, bam, start recording again. This time, the police were at the end of the block. So maybe 50 yards up, another smaller crowd has gathered, and they're talking shit. Fuck you pigs. Fuck the police. Whoop, whoop, whoop. The first thing I thought in my mind was, this isn't a dead-end street. You do realize that they can come from behind you and you're trapped. Like, there's nowhere to go. But I'm in the comfort of my own house, so I'm not tripping. I'm not even worried about it. So they're going. Fuck the police. Fuck you pigs. You're a bitch. This and this and this and this and this. From our vantage point, I can see the next street over. So I can see what's going on directly in front of the apartment, and I can see the traffic on the other street. Well, I see two of the police cars flying down the street. I was like, oh, yep, they're coming up right behind you. So instantly turn on the camera, boop, start recording. And what do you know? One of the guys who lived in a house across the street from us, but he was on his porch. He was smart. He's like, oh, watch your back. And they all break out because the police are coming, and they're 20, 30 deep. So the police are walking down the street, go in your house unless you want to go to jail. So everyone was brave at first until they rolled up on him and started talking about, you're going to jail if you aren't in your house. The crowd disperses, and then that's when I hear, shout out to Karen. Karen fucking torched the police. The whole time the police are yelling, go inside, Karen's yelling, fuck you. Fuck you. We are at home. This is our neighborhood. Get the fuck out of our neighborhood. I'm crying. If you watch the live, Ricky Freeman Shaw, Facebook.com, she's going hard. Like, absolutely top of her lungs. Fuck you. Fuck you. Get the fuck out of our neighborhood. Fuck you pigs. I was like, oh, Jesus Christ, Karen. Let them have that shit. Eventually, I guess, they let all the kids go. They just cited and released them. Cite and release. Because they can't take anybody to jail. Santa Rita's closed. They're not going to take you to jail for this misdemeanor shit. Moral of the story, don't carry your ID around if you're going to be looting and shit. Never have your real ID. That was, and that was the end of it. That was last night. Yeah, that was Monday night. And now we are here Tuesday. What is today? Tuesday, June the 2nd. And, I don't know what's going to happen tonight. They said curfew is still in effect. So, I don't know what's going to happen. I don't know if people are going to try to fight it and just kind of go where the wind blows them. But I don't know. It should be very interesting. I absolutely 100% apologize for not having the episode ready that I was supposed to have this week, because I feel like it would have helped with a lot of arguments that have been brought up since this whole situation started. Again, here on the Best Day Ever podcast, no politics, no sports, no religion, no race. In this particular instant, I think I would be remiss if I didn't address part of the issue. Without getting into personal opinion and specifics, why these protests are happening and why this looting is happening, I understand. I don't agree with, but I understand. I will never tell someone that they can't express themselves in whatever manner they feel like expressing it, as long as they're not hurting someone. As far as the police are involved, hey, you've got a tough job. I get it. I'm not gonna fall for the all the police are bad or all the protesters are bad. Like, that's not what it is. You have to judge people based on individual circumstances and how they act. I'm not willing to sit here and be like, oh, it's the police fault because they did such and such. It's well documented my views on the police and policing. As far as people out there protesting, looting, hey, if that's how you want to express yourself, go ahead. Oh, well, they burned down a Target, or so, I mean, we're talking about multinational corporations that will more than likely just claim this on their insurance, and that'll be the end of it. Now, the smaller businesses, mom and pops, yeah, you gotta leave them alone. You can't be looting the mom and pops. Like that's not cool. Leave them alone. Really, I mean, really, if you're gonna loot, like, or burn some shit down, like, you really should be at like the treasury or like your local government buildings. Or like if you're gonna steal some shit, steal some guns and like jewelry. Like don't steal some Air Maxes. Like you gotta have a plan. Like again, this is why always having a plan is so important. I get it, you're upset, like, okay, you ran through the dealership or like you ran through whatever. But you have to understand that for every action there is an opposite and equal reaction. So if you go through and ransack the Target or you ransack the Best Buy or you run up in the dealership, the police are now going to have to meet you with greater force because you've already shown that you're willing to destroy property, to assault police officers. You've only upped the ante. So now you've given them carte blanche almost to respond with violence. So I think people don't understand that when you use violence, it only escalates from there. Because once you introduce violence into a situation, you can't now say, "Oh, well, it's gonna be. We have to use peace and we have to be treated." No. So it's a dangerous game that's being played. I hope that everyone is safe. I wish nothing but health and prosperity on everybody. I hate to see anyone get hurt or lose their business or anything like that. Unfortunately, sometimes things like this are destined to happen. Like, in the words of the great Tupac Shaker, you can only mistreat people for so long. I'm paraphrasing what he said. My man said the story is if there's homeless people or not homeless people, there's people who are have-nots. Like they're only gonna stand outside your door and sing "Please, can I have some food" for so long. After a while, it's gonna be we're gonna tear this motherfucker up and take what we want. So I mean, you've got to listen to the voice of the oppressed, the downtrodden, the people who aren't in a position of power in your society, or things like this are going to happen. Again, I'm not condoning, but I understand. I get it. I'm not going to pretend like I know a better way or I have some sort of, well, this is the way that it should be done, because I mean, I don't have the answer. I don't know. I just hope that everybody stays cool, be safe, don't do nothing too wild, don't fuck your entire life off because you want to go out there and act up. Don't do that. Let's be safe out there. Oh, well, this is upsetting. I had a great topic for you that I'm sure you guys could have used this week, because there's going to be a lot of dumbass arguments that people are trying to have with you. But I promise you, next week I will be right on time. I already have everything planned out. I have it laid out. I have the whole thing. I just got it recorded for you. So then next week, so this week, take care of yourself, chill out. Again, checking on your family, make sure everybody's good. And then next week we will be prepared with how to win an argument on the internet. And I promise you, you're gonna kill people with this too. Okay, all right, really quick before I go. I just got into it with this girl today, or excuse me, with this young woman today. Again, arguments for bitches. I'm not really gonna argue with the motherfucker. I will have a discussion with you. We can share our opinions on difficult topics, but I'm not gonna argue with you. I'm not gonna go back and forth with you. I'm not gonna do that shit. Like I said, arguments for bitches. And when I say bitches, I don't mean women. Most of the bitches I know are guys. Just gonna throw that out there. She had posted in some sports group that I follow. She posted, I guess, the cool thing to do right now is to align yourself with Black Lives Matter, or to align yourself with people of color and give the appearance that you are down for the cause. there's been a few companies that have said, Target was one, EA Sports was another, the 49ers. Those are the ones I can think of off the top of my head. I think some internet companies, I'm not sure. But they all basically posted Black Lives Matter. In this difficult time, we support you, blah, 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 blah. It's a lot of lip service to me. I don't necessarily believe it. But again, I'm not here to condone anybody for what they believe or don't believe. So the girl posts it. She's like, oh, wow, EA Sports didn't release their video game today because they're in solidarity with the situation. I thought it was bullshit, but okay. So I left a comment and I said, people do anything for money nowadays. It's a shame. So the girl responds, oh, well, they're this major company and this and this and this. And the fact that, and her response was something along the lines of, you're killing two birds with one stone? And it's like, well, what do you mean? It's like, well, they're supporting the movement, which is good news, and I guess they're profiting on it, which is good for them. I was like, wait a minute. Wait. So you think that them co-signing the movement so their sales can go up is good for the movement? Then this other young lady, we'll call her a young lady for now, she comments and says, well, the 49ers have always supported Cap and this, and you should just save it and move along. And so I was like, oh, we have an argument. So I said, okay. So to the first lady, I said, making a profit from someone's struggle is a bad look, number one. And number two, EA Sports has never shown solidarity with any movement. So this seems disingenuous, to say the least. And I was like, just because you make a donation to a cause doesn't mean that you're down for the cause, as far as I'm concerned. Like, anyone can donate some money, but that doesn't mean you actually care about that cause or you're actually going to do something. She goes on to say, at this point they started to get a little testy. So she tells me that, well, Black Lives Matter wants their support, and we shouldn't worry about why they're supporting. Like, we shouldn't worry about ulterior motives. We should just be happy that they're supporting because they've never supported a movement before. So we should just be glad that a big corporation is willing to help. And I was like, okay. The other lady comments, and she says, what did she say? Not to speak, and I quote, negative words into a positive action. I was like, okay. I'm starting to get a sense of where the second young lady is going with her comments, but okay. So I tell her, like, look, I agree with you, but just because someone donates money doesn't mean they're down for the cause. That doesn't mean anything to me. Like, if you guys feel differently, that's up to you. I'm not saying it's right or wrong, but, it's up to you. The second lady, and this is when I knew. This is when I knew she didn't really have an argument, because she hits me with, when God said you reap what you sow. I said, okay, now we're bringing God into it because you don't have an argument. Okay, all right, sure. Again, I was like, okay, you brought God into it. So what did God tell you? God said that karma is a thing, according to her, that karma is the manifestation of you reap what you sow. So if they do have less than honorable intentions, that it'll be exposed and this and this and this. And I was like, okay. And then I think her question to me was, what was it? Showing support or something. When you have the opportunity to make change, why wouldn't you, or something? And so I asked her a rather direct question. I was just like, well, how do you have an opportunity to make change because EA Sports says they support black people? How does that help? And I kid you not, I'm looking at it right now. I had to pull it up because I didn't want to do a disservice to her response. How many times have you seen EA Sports speak on or say they support a movement? But now that they have, and this is verbatim. This is word for word what she said. But now that they have, and the following they have, will cause a lot of others to want to be open to join the movement. These are her words, not mine. Now change is happening. Like, dude, what's wrong with you? Now the savage in me wanted to get on her for her lack of knowledge of the English language. But that's petty. I'm not going to do that. I also wanted to get on her because she brought God into an argument that had nothing to do with religion. But I kept it classy. And I basically told her EA Sports has been making money off of college athletes for years. And when the government basically said you have to pay them to use their likeness, they decided to just shut down an entire department of the video game because they didn't want to do it. EA Sports has also started to do pay for play, which is basically you buy a $50 video game, but to actually beat the game, you need to buy $500 worth of other stuff that's available for purchase within the game. So, I mean, EA Sports doesn't necessarily have a record of being on the side of the people. But again, that's not the point of the argument. So I explained that to her. And I said, again, what's wrong with me is I don't appreciate corporations trying to tie themselves to social movements that they aren't really affecting or they don't really care about just for publicity. I'm not going to read you word for word what I said, but that was the gist of it. Her response, again, verbatim, all that don't got shit to do with Black Lives Matter and them supporting the movement, and I'm not going to spend no more time with your distracting comments and the negativity taking attention away from the cause. She tags the first girl in the comment and says, can you turn off the comments so this sheep can't speak anymore? So I was like, okay. Again, I'm not going to read you my response verbatim. But basically I said, I find it very interesting that while you're talking about social injustice and inequality, you didn't listen to anything that I said. You asked me questions. I answered your question point for point. I wasn't rude, disrespectful, condescending, even though you were condescending on multiple occasions and you insulted me. I spoke to you with respect. And then now that I have an opinion that differs from yours and I'm not willing to bend, you try to call someone in to turn off the comments to silence me because you don't like what's being said. I'm like, for someone who doesn't like the system the way it goes, you sure do have a lot in common with the oppressors that you seem to dislike. But again, I said it in a very nice way. I didn't call her out of her name. I didn't say anything like that. But she lost the argument on so many different points, and there are so many different ways that she could have had a better argument. Or even just say, you know what, hey, I don't really agree with what you're saying, but it's your personal opinion and can go the other way. But I mean, again, everyone's not well versed in the art of rhetoric and argumentation. But next week, I promise, I will have my shit together unless they do something crazy like this week. Let's hope not. Let's hope that everything chills out, and by next Saturday we have world peace, so we can just talk about how everyone's having the best day ever. Okay, we are to our favorite part of the show. So, yeah, Ricky Freeman Shaw, Facebook.com. If you want to go check out those lives, that's very interesting. Tru Sav Comedy, Instagram and Twitter. Best day ever. Oh yeah. Questions, comments, concerns. Best day ever podcast at gmail.com. Thank you for everyone who let me know how you felt about my Esposa and her performance last week. I will be more than happy to share all of your all of the positive and negative things you had to say. I'm not going to share them here now, obviously. Again, let's see, social media, all of that. Oh, Jesus, we are into some bonus time today. Sorry about that, guys. Again, I miss you guys so much. We're gonna have to set up something where we can all come together and kick it and talk about why it's the best day ever. But until then, I wish you the best things that life have to offer, you and only you. I love you guys so much. I hope that everything works out. I hope that you guys are safe when all this happens. Again, I can't get yesterday back. I might not get tomorrow, so that makes today the best day ever. No, that's not my business this week. Maybe next week I got to get with Miss Lovely and give you guys some content, because that's going to be fun. But until then, holla at your boy, stay out of trouble. And remember, gold and diamonds first, then the gun. Stop looting baby stores. All right, then, holla at your boy. Peace.